Hey book besties, welcome to my January reading wrap up. Today I'm going to be going through every single book that I read in the month of January. I am actually so proud of myself because I mostly stuck to my TBR this month. I think I only ended up not reading 2 books because I just wasn't in the mood to read them, but the rest I actually read. So I'm very, very proud of myself. Also, if you guys want to know what books are on my February TBR, I have already uploaded that video, so go check that out if you haven't already. So in January I read a total of 9 books. In total I read 2,610 pages and I listened for 14.55 hours. My top 3 genres this month were romance, contemporary and literary, which I rarely ever read literary fiction, and 2 of the books that I read were literary fictions, so that is very interesting. And my top 3 moods were light-hearted, funny and emotional. That was a quick overview of my reading stats, so let's jump into the books that I read this month. I started January and 2023 off by reading Shipped by Angie Hockman, and boy was this a great start to the new year because I really enjoyed this book. This is the perfect mix between the Unhoneymooners and the Hating Game. Like if they had a book baby, it would be this book. So if you like either of those books, I definitely recommend checking this one out. This book follows Graham and Henley. They both work for a cruise company and they are both up for the same promotion, and they're both actually in like the digital marketing field, which is something I'm very interested in, so I feel like that made me love the book even more. But in order to get this promotion, they both need to go on a company cruise to the Galapagos Islands to come up with their proposals, and obviously it's forced proximity, and the cruise setting, the Galapagos, was incredible. I've never been on a cruise before and I was living through this book. Absolutely amazing, the perfect summary book. It's enemies to lovers, forced proximity, everything you could probably ask for in a romance book, and I just loved this book so much. I rated this one 4 stars. Then I picked up book 2 of the Twisted series, which is Twisted Games by Anna Huang, and this book completely redeemed the series for me because I hated Twisted Love and it made me so hesitant to pick up the rest of the books, but Twisted Games has got me so excited to pick up the last 2 books because I really liked this one. This one is a forbidden romance between a princess and her bodyguard, and it was so spicy and so good. I loved it. The plot in this book was incredible. One of the best plots I've read in a romance book. It was so good, so interesting. I loved all 430 pages that was of this book. It was just so great. This had good spice, good plot, good characters, like so good. I loved it so much. I rated this one 4.5 stars. Then I finally read the book that's been on my TBR for the longest, and that was Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas, and unfortunately I did not like this book. It was so hard for me to get into this book. I read the first few chapters from the actual paperback and then I had to end up switching over to the audiobook because this book was just not capturing my attention every time I would pick it up. The long chapters were killing me and the slow burn in this book was just not it. Normally I don't mind a good slow burn, good tension, good angst, but in this book it just did not hit for me. I also wasn't a huge fan of the main female character Catalina. She just got on my nerves pretty much throughout the whole book. Also the fact it took them 200 pages just to travel to Spain. But this is an enemies to lovers workplace romance. Catalina has her sister's wedding to attend to in Spain, but her family thinks that she has this really hot American boyfriend, but that's actually a lie. So she's trying to find a date to go to Spain, and the only person that's offered is her arch nemesis at her workplace named Aaron. So she has no choice but to go fake date Aaron in Spain in front of her whole family. Like the whole concept of this book is something that I would normally enjoy, but I don't know, the writing, the long chapters, it just was a whole miss for me, which was really unfortunate, and I personally would not recommend this. I rated this one 2 stars. Now this one actually surprised me, but in a good way, and that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Normal People follows Connell and Mary Ann. They went to high school together and they were dating. Connell was always ashamed to be around Marianne because Marianne has always been a loner. They're also from different classes as well. Connell is in the lower class, whereas Marianne's, I suppose, like middle to upper class. You follow these two characters from high school through to college. These characters are very unlikable. There's so much miscommunication between these two characters as well. But I feel like because these characters were so mundane, there were aspects to these characters you could actually kind of relate to in a way. I don't know. It was like a breath of fresh air reading about characters who felt so real, like everyday human beings. The only thing I struggled with this book was the writing style, because obviously there's no quotation marks or anything like that because that's how Sally Rooney writes. So it's really hard for me to adjust to it. Yeah, it was just so surprising. I did not expect to like this as much as I did, but wow, it was a shockingly good book. I ended up rating this one 4 stars. Then I had my first 5-star read of 2023, and that is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I love this book with my whole heart. This is the first book in the off-campus series, and this is the story of Hannah and Garrett. This is a college hockey sports romance. Garrett is the captain of the hockey team, and he has been failing one of his classes, and to keep his spot as the captain of the hockey team, he needs to get an A on his midterm. So he asks Hannah, who is the only person in that class to get an A+, to tutor him. And in exchange, they make this deal where if Hannah tutors him, Garrett will be Hannah's fake date and help her get this football player that she has been in love with. But obviously, it's them that ends up falling in love. I think what really made this book a 5-star read for me is getting to see Hannah and Garrett's friendship develop through this book, because their friendship was everything. Like their jokes, their banter, their chemistry as friends and then into lovers is absolutely everything. I wish I could go back and reread this again for the first time because it was amazing, and I rated it 5 stars, of course. Then I read Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. This is meant to be an enemies to lovers romance between Maddie and Jasper. They both own competing bookstores that are right opposite each other. Maddie is super attached to her indie bookstore and is not wanting the opposite bookstore to get all their customers, so they're like doing prank wars against each other and competing to basically try to shut the other one down. This enemies to lovers felt very one-sided because it was literally Maddie the entire time just like not liking Jasper because of the bookstore situation, and the whole book is in her perspective, and I really did not like her character, so I think that really impacted my experience reading the book. And also the book kind of felt repetitive as well. It just felt like the same events happening over and over again, and I was kind of over it, so I gave it 3 stars. Then I read The Enemy Trap by Mariam, which is an enemies to lovers romance. I do want to mention this has the accidental pregnancy trope, so if you don't like that trope, this book is probably not going to be for you. P.S. I do not like the accidental pregnancy trope, so you can probably guess what my rating for this book ended up being. So we follow Hayes and Sophia. Hayes is a famous hockey player and he's a little bit of a playboy, and Hayes and Sophia have never gotten along. They have always been childhood enemies, but they always end up having to spend time with each other because they are the godparents, I think, if I remember correctly, of their best friends. And then one day they get drunk and Sophia ends up being pregnant, so they end up having to like fake date, be fake fiancés, otherwise it will completely ruin Hayes' career. But then they realize, oh, actually, I don't hate you. I don't know if I ever hated you. I think I actually love you. The reason why they were enemies in the first place was so stupid in my opinion, and these characters were so childish and immature. It was so annoying. So unfortunately, I did not like this one, and I also kind of expected this book because the guy is a hockey player for it to be more hockey romance focused, but the accidental pregnancy completely took over this whole book. Like the whole book was surrounding that, which was really not the vibe. So I gave this one 2 stars. I also read How to Love Your Neighbor by Sophie Sullivan, which is also meant to be an enemies to lovers, but it wasn't. So this follows Grace, who is an interior designer who has also inherited her grandparents' house, and she is going to be living in it and fixing it up, doing a little home renovation. And then we have Noah, who is her next door neighbor and is also a real estate developer, and he's actually wanting to buy Grace's house, but Grace is obviously like, no, absolutely not, this is my house, I'm renovating it. And that is the only thing they disagree on, and that only lasts like maybe 5 chapters, and the chapters are really short as well, so keep that in mind. So that was was just disappointing. I was expecting it to be more enemies to lovers, but it was enemies for like 5 chapters and then friends, and they help each other renovate, and then lovers. Like, that's it. So that was kind of disappointing. I was just expecting a lot more. I did like the aspect of, you know, home renovations because I love anything home related. So I gave this one 3 stars. And the last book that I read was Before the Coffee Goes Cold, which is another literary fiction. I can't believe I never really read literary fiction, and I wrote 2 in 1 month. So this book is following a Japanese cafe that allows you to time travel. And in order to time travel, you have to sit in this one particular seat. And when you go back in time, you only have until the coffee goes cold. Otherwise, if you go over time, you end up turning into a ghost. So you have to go back into the present time before the coffee goes cold. And you also have to drink the coffee before it goes cold. So I love that that is like the time limit for the time travel aspect. That was so interesting. Also, fun fact about this book, this has actually got 4 short stories in one. It's all set in this time traveling cafe, which is following 4 different people that are going back in time. So that was really interesting. I never really read short stories because they're not my thing, but I think because this was all still set in the same world surrounding this time travel cafe, that was interesting. Also, some of the short stories in this book, specifically the husband and wife one, which is the second one, was actually so emotional. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 3.5 stars. So that is every single book that I read in January. Let me know in the comments down below your favorite book that you read this month. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed watching. Subscribe to my channel down below. I post new videos every week. Also follow me on all my social medias because I post a ton on there as well. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye!